Bacup is a good example of the development of an industrial town in what was formerly wild moorland country. The town centre is 825 feet above sea level, and the moors around climb to 1500 feet and more. Through the borough flows the River Irwell, a swift stream rising in the parish of Cliviger, north of Bacup. The site and building of the maiden public baths were presented to the borough in 1893, but today this is no longer a public bath and now used as a nursery. The Bacup Mechanics Institute was founded in the year 1839. In 1904 it was proposed that the institute building should be acquired by the corporation for public use for the purposes of a public library and that of a town hall. The lease of the building was a term of 999 years at a rent of £60 per annum. The Bacup Natural History Society has been in existence since the year 1878 and at first occupied premises on the site of the maiden public baths. It is a well-stocked museum. Lectures are given on scientific, geological and educational subjects given throughout the winter months. Slum clearance has been carried out in the town over a period of years. In 1962, the council approved a 15-year slum clearance programme in the town. The first 5 years, 327 dwellings were cleared. The second 5 years, 462 dwellings. The third 5 years of 765 dwellings. It can be seen where clearance and landscaping has been carried out. It has been said that slum clearance is not carried out as quickly as one would like. The council have for many years been considering the possibility of improving the town centre, and in order to assist traffic flow, they have approved a circulatory traffic system. This is likely to be brought into operation as soon as County Council receive authority for the construction of a new link road between Rochdale Road and Market Street. The Conservative Club on Irwell Terrace, built in 1890s, formerly utilised club/nightclub, 117-year-old, to be made into a restaurant, wine bar and community centre. Regal Cinema, built on the site of Bacup Public Hall, built in 1931 with 960 seats between stalls and balcony. It closed as a cinema in the late 1960s and converted to a bingo hall, and closed in the early 2000s. The Royal Court Theatre was built in 1850 as the Henrietta Street Ironworks. In 1886, the building was gutted by fire. It was purchased and turned into a theatre. The theatre opened in 1893. The theatre had 2 balconies. The upper circle was removed in 1948. The theatre was known as the Empire in the 1900s and has been a bingo hall and a church. The Royal Court is now owned by the Bacup Amateur, Operatic and dramatic society. In 1837 the original township of Bacup and some of the smaller places in the immediate vicinity became for ecclesiastical purposes the consolidated district chapelry of St. John's, Bacup. In consequence, the church of St. John's became the parish church of Bacup. On the right-hand side of St. James's Street, as it leads into the square, are pleasant ornamental gardens laid out in 1926, and partly situated above the culvert which conveys the River Irwell beneath the town centre. The borough's war memorial, a cenotaph, stands in Hampstead Gardens in Burnley Road, also in Burnley Road, near its junction with St. James's Square, is the General Post Office, with immediately opposite the Bacup parish church of St. John the Evangelist, erected in 1882-83 on the site of a previous church. Immediately beyond the General Post Office is the handsome social centre for the aged, blind and disabled people of the town. This centre, equipped with concert hall, kitchen, education, handicrafts and television rooms, was formerly the Liberal Club and was converted by the council. A short distance west of St. James's Square are the links of the Bacup Golf Club, a pleasant course of 9 holes just 1,000 feet above sea level. Leading north-east from St. James's Square is Yorkshire Street, and afterwards became Tomodin Road. About a quarter of a mile from the square in the direction is Christ Church, erected in 1854, a stone building in the early English style, standing on high ground. The area as a whole is rich in historical heritage, with many limestone buildings dating from the last century. Their full beauty often only recently been seen for the first time within living memory, as a result of stone cleaning. The decline in the cotton manufacturing industry left many empty factories in the borough. Private developers are currently experiencing a major success in dividing the mills into units of varying sizes and letting the premises to small businesses. A number of locations have been identified as possibly future conservation areas, and 6 have already been designated, including Bacup Town Centre. The Britannia Coconut Dancers have found fame throughout their television appearances and participation in festivals throughout Britain and Europe, and have appeared at the Royal Albert Hall. Their distinctive costumes and blackened faces and the sound of their clogs make them a real showstopper. They perform at various venues in the valley throughout the year, but are best known for dancing through the streets of Bacup each Easter Saturday. Having previously been a mill town of the Industrial Revolution, Bacup was once described by English Heritage as the best preserved cotton mill town in England, and many of its traditional features are being preserved and celebrated in this quaint and welcoming town. The famous River Irwell runs from Bacup Borough through the Rossendale Valley to Salford, and is an important feature in the valley. The Airwell Sculpture Trail is well worth a walk and has 70 sculptures between Bacup and Salford Quays. Bacup houses the 17-foot-long Elgin Street, which has the title of the shortest street in the world. That's according to the Guinness Book of Records. Another claim to fame for the town is that the 1980s TV police drama Juliet Bravo was filmed there. Also, Etty Wainthropp investigates parts of the League of Gentlemen and much of the film Girls' Night Out. One of the attractions is at Lee Mill Quarry Mountain Bike Trail in Bacup, where riders can test their skills on the red and black routes. John Wesley preached at Bacup on more than one occasion in the latter half of the 18th century, as is recorded in all the journals. And with the rapid industrial progress which took place in the early part of the 19th century, many nonconformist congregations were formed. Later in the century, the places of worship with which we are familiar today were erected. On the weekdays, all the working classes, male and female, the children, the wives of some respectable shopkeepers, wore wooden clogs, and her kerchief, instead of a bonnet, was a almost exclusive headdress of the female population. On the Sunday, transformation was so great that the town had quite a different aspect. Among both sexes and all ages, the clogs were displaced by shoes, and the kerchiefs by neat and genteel bonnets. As regards the Roman Catholics, the district of Bacup was in pre-Reformation times in the parish of Whalley, and the first church to be erected in Bacup itself was the present church of St. Mary's, which was erected and opened in 1852. The school chapel of St. Joseph Staxted was erected and opened in 1892, and on the erection and opening of the present church in 1928, it was retained in use as a school. The Council's committee has been particularly active in the industrial and redevelopment field. On the 24th of March 1971, all the railway land within the borough was purchased by the corporation. Since that time, an industrial estate named Park Road has been laid out on the former goods and passenger stations, and plans are in hand to develop the old engine shed site for further industrial development. Various other proportions of railways have been sold. The committee considered a scheme for a country park and added lands for walks and for recreational purposes on other parts of the railway land. The council has been instrumental in securing new industries in existing industrial buildings within the area and clearance of other buildings, notably the old part of India Mill. Bacup stands at the eastern end of the Rosendale Valley, where was formerly the ancient forest of Rosendale. There is no record of Bacup itself in Domesday Book, but it has certainly existed since the 12th century, the name being first recorded as Bacup Fold. The first recorded settlers in Rosendale Forest were the monks who established Whalley Abbey. The first mention of any landowner occurs in the 13th century and refers to Emre Rosendale. During the 16th century the forest was destroyed, and a large number of sheep farms grew up in the district, giving rise to the production of woolen goods. The industry began in the houses of the workers, with the hand loom as the instrument of their trade. Cotton subsequently replaced the woolen industry, the first mills being built along the banks of the Shiny Brook, and was for a considerable period the staple trade of the town, but footwear and other manufactures are now of greater importance. Until the closing years of the 18th century, Bacup had remained little more than a village. The population was then about 1500. At the end of the 19th century, it was in the neighbourhood of 25,000. It was a rapidly expanding cotton industry, with its ferocious appetite for workers, which had caused the whole families to move into the district, many coming from East Anglia. In 1831 a Board of Health for Bacup, Booth and Bramwood Higher End was set up, consequent upon the outbreak of cholera, which prompted the inhabitants to call a public meeting. The cholera outbreak subsided, and so eventually did the activities of the board. It did, however, undertake one worthwhile task: the cleansing of the bed of the River Harewell. The Harewell was a continual source of trouble to the inhabitants in those days, its rapid flow causing frequent flooding. In 1849 a serious inundation occurred, as an even more disastrous one in 1870. 11 years later 3 people lost their lives in a further flood. Following the 1849 disaster, local people presented a petition for the application to the district to the Public Health Act 1848. A public inquiry took place, and a critical report was made on the town. After considerable agitation, the inhabitants achieved their purpose, and Bacup was established as a local government district, a local Board of Health being elected in 1863. The chairman of the board was Dr. Joseph Hardman Worrell, who was also its honorary medical officer of health. The district was extended in 1876 to include the area now known as Stagsties. About 1881, when the population was just over 25,000, the local administrators decided to petition for a charter of incorporation, and this was duly granted by Queen Victoria on August the 22nd, 1882. The charter provided for the division of the new borough into 6 wards. The first mayor of Bacup was Alderman John Hargreaves of Greensnewt, and the first town clerk was Mr. James Howarth. The Borough Public Library, established in 1931, took over the book stock of the Mechanics' Institute, and also received a gift of books from the library formerly run by the Bacup Cooperative Store. The public library consists of separate lending departments for adults and children, and an adult reference department. Over 40,000 books are in stock, and the usual interchange facilities with other libraries exist. Bacup is justifiably proud of its parks, gardens, recreation grounds. Stubbley Park was given to the town by the trustees of the late Miles Ashworth charity, and contains our tennis courts and ample playing spaces. The gardens at Mitchell Dell are very beautiful, and in particular the rose garden presents in the summer months charming spectacle. Moorlands Park was given to the town by the trustees of the late Edward Hoyle, and it has been tastefully laid out with two excellent bowling greens, sunken gardens, and the children's playground is furnished with modern equipment and contains a paddling pool presented to the town by the late Alderman Thomas Coates and Mrs. Coates. An extensive recreation ground, named the Maiden Recreation Ground, presented to the town in 1893 by the late Sir Henry Maiden, includes large playing fields, a bowling green, putting green, and tennis courts. There is also large recreation ground at Stexes, used mainly for cricket and football. The site and building of the Maiden Public Baths, as already been mentioned, were presented to the borough in 1893 by the late Sir John Henry Maiden, in fulfilment of the wishes of his father, the late Mr. Henry Maiden, J.P. Broadclough Dykes, half a mile north of the town, are the remains of earthworks raised to command the pass between the sites of Bacup and Burnley. Its embankments are over 1,800 feet long, with a trench 54 feet wide at the base. Some authorities attribute these works to the Saxons, who in the 10th century defeated a combined army of Danes, Scots, and Welsh hereabout. The Bacup Cricket Club has for many years been one of the leading members of the Lancashire League, and possesses an excellent ground at Lane Head. There are also flourishing Sunday School and Workshops leagues, and it is noteworthy that the local leagues have produced to date 6 county professionals knockout competitions are organised by a very active sports council. The Bacup Borough Football Club, who plays in the Lancashire Combination, have their ground at West View, Lane Head, quite near the cricket ground. Local soccer is created for the Bacup and District Amateur League, formed in 1913, and by the Bacup Borough FC through its medal competition. Thomas Templey and Sons Limited was established in 1844 by Thomas Templey, and since his death up to the present time the firm, which manufactures sanitary pipes, fire bricks, and many different kinds of clay products, has been conducted by his descendants. The kilns are still fired with coal, but the continued increase in coal prices will probably necessitate the use of oil for this purpose in the future, due to the extensive building programme of the last 15 years. The firm has been kept in full production, and as a result the employees have suffered no period of short time. Many buildings are particularly architectural or historic importance, whether of national or more local significance, are afforded protection by way of the inclusion in lists compiled by the Department of the Environment. From time to time these lists are reviewed and buildings added. Buildings which enjoy statutory protection are classified either Grade 1 or Grade 2 according to their importance. Grade 1 buildings are generally those of national standing. The majority of listed buildings are classified as Grade 2, whilst within the grade, buildings which possess especially unusual or interesting features, including original interior detailing such as ornate plasterwork or mouldings, staircases, roof timbers, etc., may be denoted as Grade 2. Buildings which are protected in this way cannot be altered, improved or extended in any way which would affect their character, and this may include internal alterations, without the prior grant of listed building consent as well. Nor can any works of partial or total demolishing take place without the consent of the local planning authority. Indeed, in the case of demolition or partial demolition of a listed building, conservation areas, in addition to their responsibilities for individual buildings of merit, the local planning authority are required from time to time to consider whether parts of their district should be designated as conservation areas. Trees protected by a preservation order may not be lopped, topped, felled, or uprooted, nor their root system pruned, without the prior written permission of the local planning authority. We are looking at Rosendale Council offices. The cemetery at Farewell, which occupies one of the most beautiful situations in the town, was acquired and laid out by the former burial board and opened in 1862. We spare a thought for the Bacup and Stexes people who are now at rest, who contributed to Bacup and Stexes over many, many, many years. We have only touched part of the history of Bacup, but to learn more, see Bacup Natural History Society, who will take you into the realms of Bacup history. Thank you for watching. Until next time, bye.